Tonight in the unprecedented drama of a former president answering to criminal charges. Donald Trump arriving at a jail in Atlanta tonight and turning himself in. He was booked on charges that he was allegedly part of a criminal conspiracy to overturn the Georgia results of the 2020 presidential election. 13 counts in all in this fourth indictment against him, charges he calls a political persecution. Mr. Trump was fingerprinted and had his mugshot taken. The first time that has happened. He was then released on a $200,000 bond and left. He spoke to a waiting press afterwards, saying he did nothing wrong and calling the charges election interference.
The notorious DJT, Donald Trump, right? The best president in American history. Election fraud. And you know what I find interesting about this whole election fraud thing, right? They said election rigging, election fraud, election scams. You know, they always talking about that, right? So, but I noticed, like, they said Donald Trump's guilty of election fraud. But what about if you kill the president of a country like Libya, right? So if you kill the Libyan president Muammar Gaddafi, you go into his country, right, and remove the president and the whole government and then bomb the country. Would that be considered election fraud or election rigging or interfering in an election? I mean, since you did kill the president. I'm just saying, I mean, it's kind of hypocritical to talk about election fraud or election rigging, right? Then you know, Saddam Hussein comes to mind. He was the president of, what was that country? Iraq, that's right. And so they went into Iraq and then they bombed the country and killed the president. Now, would that be considered election rigging or election fraud if you go into like a sovereign country, kill the president, you know what I mean, and wipe out like 1 million people and then institute a government that you say is friendly, you know, a moderate or whatever, you know, some shit like that, whatever it is, you know, whatever it is you call yourself doing. So, but my thing is this: so they say the notorious DJT, he did election fraud and election rigging, and somebody, you know, and then Hillary Clinton and everybody's talking about election fraud and election rigging. But I'm just saying, so if you go into like, what was it, Mossadegh in Iran back in like the 50s, I think they killed him too. Somehow he got killed, right? And then and some government op sponsored by like U.S. and NATO. And then, you know, overthrew the government, then the Shah came in. So my thing is that considered election rigging too, when you kill presidents and overthrow governments and like institute the government that you like? But so this whole thing about Donald Trump, you know, election rigging, racketeering, I mean, it's kind of hypocritical and weird. I'm just saying. It seems weird, right? People have short memories. And then, you know, I mean, speaking of massive, you know, evidence of election rigging, right? Nothing like, you know, wiping out a government, 1 million people and a president. That's the ultimate election. Wouldn't that be considered the ultimate election rigging? These people is weird. It's a very weird place. These people are weird, right? Very hypocritical, liars, weirdos, right? I'm just saying, you know. But to me, I like Donald Trump, right? I think Donald Trump gonna go down. You know what I mean? I like Donald Trump, the notorious DJT. I mean, he's gonna go down as like probably the best president in history. I mean, he revealed, Donald Trump passed the law before he left office, right? He passed the what was the, I don't know if I mean a law or whatever. Was it a law? He signed the bill. And in the bill it was like he basically started the ball rolling on alien disclosure. Yeah, Donald Trump did that. Go back and look at the tape. He also basically legalized, you know, hemp and cannabis, or at least he started the ball rolling with the cannabis legalization, hemp legalization, right? Donald Trump, so he's going to be remembered for Donald Trump basically led the legalization of marijuana and released the files on alien disclosure. Or at least started the ball rolling on both of those things. Least you remember. So in the end, you know, if it depend on, you know, if the condition of the world, right, in like a couple of years, right, they'll look back and say Donald Trump, he was the president, he got locked up because he's gonna become president again, right? But he's gonna be in, maybe be in jail, so he's gonna be in prison. He's gonna be like the first president from jail. He legalized, he led the legalization of marijuana and hemp, and he led alien disclosure, right? The disclosure that there are non-human entities walking around on Earth and flying around. Yeah, Donald Trump did that, right? It just goes to show when people become all emotional about Trump, they forget these two things, right? That's monumental. That's world-changing events. But somehow it's flying under the radar that that's what's happening with Donald Trump, right? In the midst of all this talk about election rigging, someone's rigging the election. Hey, didn't you guys kill Muammar Gaddafi, the president of a country, and overturn his government? Wouldn't that be considered fucking up elections and rigging politics or something? I don't know. Right? But oh, wait a minute, you had a good reason. He's a bad guy. He's a tyrant or whatever. He's like almost black. Maybe he's an Arab or something. So that's a good, he's a bad guy. And these are the good guys and all that kind of stuff. Right, got you. So anyway, but yeah, so the notorious Donald Trump, right? The greatest president in American history, Donald Trump, right? And like they say, Donald Trump's a racist. I mean, he probably is. A lot of white people are racist. But one thing people should remember, like particularly black people, right? At least, there's all kinds of racism, although, it's racism. You get racism from everybody, right, if you're black. But Lyndon B. Johnson was a racist, and he signed the Civil Rights Act in 1963, 64. But he was a known racist. He hated, known to not really want to be, want any dealings with black people at all, right? Just like black people, basically, because they was black, right? Descendants of slaves, whatever, right? I'm just saying. But he signed the Civil Rights. He made a deal at that time. He said, it was probably a good idea to try to make a deal with black people. And Martin Luther King and everybody else dealt with Lyndon B. Johnson, even though he was, who he was. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I was, Donald Trump's a racist. You've been dealing with racists for a long time in America and making deals with them politically. What's the problem now? I mean, if Trump was going to offer you a better deal, right? So you got your Republican races and your Democrat races, right? Green Party races, Libertarian races. Why don't you just get the best deal? If Donald Trump got the best deal, then take his deal. You took Lyndon B. Johnson's deal. Turned out okay, I guess, right? Well, let's see if he got a deal. Well, maybe Joe Biden got a better deal. KKK Joe Biden, Jim Crow Joe. I'm just saying, right? I make this too long, but the notorious Donald Trump, the notorious DJT, right? Donald John Trump, right? The best president in American history. Will go down as the greatest president in American history, right? At least the most entertaining, right? The most entertaining president, Like, I think, why people like Trump? I think I figured it out. I'm going to say this and I'm going to go. Because nobody likes him. Maybe, it seems like nobody likes him. He's kind of like, a dark horse candidate. A lot of people on the Republicans don't like him. A lot of Democrats don't like him. Liberals, whatever, right? And I think sometimes, right now, people are at the end of their rope. So they just want to see somebody fuck shit up. The notorious DJT, right? Just running around fucking shit up, releasing files on aliens, helping legalize weed, releasing, giving black rappers, releasing them from jail, doing all kinds of shit. It's like, man, none of this makes sense, right? Aliens, weed, what's going on here? Election fraud, hypocrites screaming election tampering, right? violent rainbow Nazis, violent rainbow protesters, I mean, right? Boogaloo boys, boogalooing, right? Whatever the fuck that is, right? Shit is insane, man. I mean, shit is off the hook. It's insane. I mean, when you just look at it all together, right? It's a weird fucking picture. Anyway, but shout out to the Notorious DJ T. Free Donald Trump. That's all I got.